let's talk about Tesla My Tesla. So numbers are coming out likely in the morning around Tesla's delivery numbers, okay? Now, this was consensus as of, I believe it was Friday or Thursday. Consensus 457,000 deliveries. Last year, they did 422,000. Now, it doesn't look very probable that 457 is getting hit, okay? It doesn't look very probable that 457 is getting hit. I don't know what other way to put it, okay? Now, very recently, Wedbush took their numbers down to 425, Morgan Stanley down to 425, Deutsche Bank down to 414. My guy, who I would call pretty much a Tesla expert or pretty darn close to it, my guy's under 410, okay? So, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm not very excited about this deliveries number. This is not one of those delivery numbers to be excited about. Let's just put it that way. My guy's under 410, which is under where even some of these bearish folks are on Wall Street. So we'll see what happens in regards to that, okay? But the next thing I want to say is all this is going to be irrelevant 2 to 3 years from now. Whatever happens with the stock price tomorrow, what happens in the delivery numbers, oh, it's worse than expected, oh, it's way worse than expected, oh, it's better than expected, whatever, okay? Probably worse than expected. It's all irrelevant 2 to 3 years from now. Irrelevant, right? I take you back here. Does anybody remember this quarter right here? This was 2017 into the 2018 quarter there. And Tesla's revenue actually, it was a very small increase there, which could have been seen as problematic. But you want to talk about ultra problematic? Right here, 2018, that particular quarter, they did $7.2 billion of revenue. And then in the March 31st, 2019 quarter, they dropped down to $4.5 billion of revenue. And an absolutely embarrassing decrease in revenue year over year for Tesla. I mean, what is that off the top of my head? That's probably high 30s, low 40s in terms of percent revenue down year over year. I mean, for a company like Tesla, that was embarrassing at that time. Does anybody even remember that quarter now? No. Anybody remember this quarter in 2019 into the March quarter of 2020? Before Rona even started rolling, right? Rona really affected the next quarter more so. $7.3 billion went down to $5.9 billion of revenue. Embarrassing. Did anybody remember that quarter? What about this quarter when they went from 957 to 940? What about this particular quarter when they went 955 to 937? What about this particular quarter when they went from $1.2 billion of revenue to $1.1 billion? Does anybody remember these quarters from 2015? Or, these quarters from 2017, 18, 19, 2020? No, of course not. No one remembers that. It's all just ancient history now at this point in time. So the moral of the story is in regards to a stock like Tesla. Everybody can get caught up into whatever. They want to sell the stock off 10% tomorrow. As a long-term investor, I just look at that as a buying the dip opportunity. Great. Give me shares. You want to sell me shares for 150, I'll get them. You want to sell me shares for 120, 100, whatever. Okay? Give me the shares. This will all be irrelevant over time. We'll move past it and we'll be what it's going to be. Okay? All that matters at the end of the day is Tesla's 3, 5, 7-year trajectory. And gosh, look at Tesla's trajectory last 3, 5, 7 years when it comes to their revenue. It's very impressive. It's very, very impressive. Deliveries, production, it's very impressive. All right, guys, let's get in these 7 stocks up here. Okay, first one up here is Tesla My Tesla. One of the best stocks over the past 5 years, but one of the most hated stocks in the market recently, okay? Now, for me personally, if you haven't been following me for very long, I've been a Tesla shareholder for many years. Owned this stock since 2019. I've owned it in much more controversial time periods than actually now, believe it or not. Back then, it was a whole different craziness, okay? Now, the 3-year chart of Tesla's bad, right? The stock's down over 20% in the past 3 years, and it's done a whole lot of nothing. The articles out there, the media, it is very negative, right? As the EV decline continues, a bright spot emerges in the solar sector. Tesla's awful quarter has Wall Street on the edge ahead of delivery numbers. Tesla stock might have had its worst quarter ever. I mean, these are the sorts of headlines out there around Tesla right now. It's not good, okay? It's bad, 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 okay? Tesla bulls turn bearish as nightmare. First quarter comes to an end. So, as a long-term investor, somebody that's focused on more than tomorrow in the next month, you gotta zoom out a little bit. You gotta zoom out a little bit to get the full picture of what's actually going on with Tesla and where this company is going over the next 5, 10 years. Me as a long-term investor, I don't care what's going on in the next month, 3 months, whatever. All that stuff passes. I care about where this company's at 3 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now. That's what matters to me. And that focus over the long term is what has gotten that, $252,000 in gains there, not getting caught up in all the short-term stuff, because there's a lot to get caught up into, okay? Listen, here's the deal, okay? This is another period of lower growth for Tesla where people are saying Tesla's big growth days are done. Okay, so it's not the first time. This is actually the fourth time in Tesla's history this has happened. Back in 2010, this happened. They only grew revenue 4% that particular year, and people thought, oh, that's it for Tesla's big growth. I mean, it went from 20,000% growth, 600% growth to 4%. That big growth is done. Okay. Then back in 2015, the company only grew 26% in that particular year, which was very poor growth for them compared to those previous years. Then people were predicting, okay, the big growth for Tesla's done. Back in 2019, remember I told you I started buying the stock 2019, right? Man, oh man, they were all out. Tesla only grew 14% that year, and people said, oh, Tesla's big growth days are done. That's a thing of the past now at this point in time. And this past year, they grew revenue to nearly $100 billion. It was 18% growth. And guess what? People are saying, once again, Tesla's big growth days are done. Maybe fourth time's a charm. I don't think so, okay? Now, I also thought this was fascinating. This was a bad year for them, 2023, right? They still upped their revenue $15 billion year over year. That's insane. Think about this. Back in 2017, then the company's entire revenue was $11.7 billion. And they just upped their revenue $15 billion in 1 year. That's incredible, right? Now, we have Cybertruck ramping. Cybertruck's the most talked about, debated vehicle in the history of mankind. There's never been anything like it. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The amount of people that have an opinion about Cybertruck. They love it. They hate it. Best vehicle ever, worst vehicle ever. Holy smokes. Everybody's got an opinion on Cybertruck. And that's exactly what it was designed to do, I think, at the end of the day. But production is ramping and going very well in regards to Cybertruck, okay? Now, Cybertruck also, it's going to be very popular. They're going to have a whole bunch of different paint films and wraps you can get, which, it's always been very popular to get your Teslas wrapped. Actually, both my Teslas are wrapped. I have a Model X and a S Plaid. Both of them are wrapped, and I know a ton of people that get their 3s wrapped, Ys wrapped, and now Tesla's offering that in-house. That's going to be huge profits for Tesla now at this point in time. Now, there was something fascinating when Tesla's latest earnings came out. Services and other gross profit was up substantially for the company, nearly $500 million in a 3-month span. That's incredible, right? Or excuse me, for the year overall, nearly $500 million. Now, that's from, look at this, back in 2019, over $500 million gross loss for the company. So we're talking about $1 billion turn in just a few years there. That's phenomenal, right? And this segment has 20 plus years of growth ahead of it in terms of the service segment. That's insane. By the way, energy business, no one ever talks about it, pays attention to it. Everybody's always focused on how many 3s and Ys are they selling. Look at energy storage deployments, how much that was up in 2023, right? Now, U.S. EV market just passed the 1 million sales mark in 2023. And guess who's the dominant player there? It is good old Tesla, with over 50% market share, right? Now, when it comes to Tesla, this company's so set up, so phenomenal for the next 10, 20 years. And the reason being is we know there's a huge transition going on to EVs. That's not going backwards. We're going toward this, okay? And when it comes to the EV wave, essentially, you're gonna have to prove if you're a competitor to Tesla, you're gonna have to prove you have a better product somehow than Tesla, right? And that's difficult because Tesla's known as an EV company. All these other guys, it's like, do you really want to buy an EV from them? It's no different than if Tesla was selling internal combustion engine vehicles. Would you really want to buy an internal combustion engine vehicle from Tesla? I don't know, right? You might want to stick with somebody that's been doing it for a long time. That's a problem for all the other players. And speaking about all the other players, the competitors, right? They're all now trying to partner with Tesla. You got Ford, BMW, Genesis, General Motors, Honda, Hyundai, Jag, Kia, Lucid, Mini, Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Polestar. We'll see if they're even around in the future. Rivian, we'll see if they're even around in the future, right? Lucid, that might be one that's out. I think Rivian will make it long term. Toyota and Volvo, all those companies have all announced partnerships with good old Tesla for their supercharging network now at this point in time, right? Now, this just opens up a whole bunch of possibilities over time. I see a day where Tesla could be selling battery packs to all their competitors, right? It would just make sense. I don't think any of their competitors are going to be able to have the battery technology Tesla does. I think all their competitors are still trying to catch up to where Tesla's at. Where do you think Tesla's going to be 5 years, 10 years out, right? That's just insane. FSD, none of these other competitors, once again, of Tesla have anything to compete with FSD. So I think this is another thing. They're going to end up having to partner with Tesla on this because Tesla's going to solve the problem before these other guys are going to solve it. And so they're either going to have to still try to figure out and pump billions of dollars into that for 5, 10, 15 years and hope they someday land FSD, or go ahead and partner with Tesla. Tesla can license the technology and make some sort of subscription fee on that. That's more probable than not, right? So you have all these big auto companies that are more than likely going to have to partner with Tesla more and more over time, right? Now, this just got announced here. Tesla will let buyers try its FSD system for free. And I'd reached out to some people over the past few months, and, because I thought this was very, very important to have essentially a free trial of this. I thought it was extremely important. I'm still pushing, by the way, for $99 a month. We'll see, okay? We'll see. Right now it's $199 a month. I'll need $99. If they can get it down to $99, we're really talking. I think this is going to take off massively. We'll see, okay? But this is a step in the right direction, a free trial for that, okay? Now, Tesla's growth recap. Here's what we got going on. Continued electric vehicle adoption, which is just going to continue over the next 10, 20 years, right? International expansion, which Tesla's really started to expand international in quite a substantial way over the past 4 or 5 years. They're going to continue to expand international. Cybertruck, that's just starting to ramp, as you see there. But, that's got years of ramp ahead. Demand is endless, basically, for Cybertruck over the next few years. Number 4, Model 2. That's going to be their under $30,000 vehicle. That's likely coming in the next year or two, Elon says. FSD is looking pretty good. I'll say that. They're making huge steps in the right direction. I think they're way ahead of anybody out there. It looks like, they'll be solved, let's just call it sooner rather than later. Supercharging network. Huge opportunity. Obviously, if you're doing any sort of road trips, you got to charge up. And sometimes you might be in the city driving a lot. You charge up as well, right? That's a huge opportunity for not just them, but if somebody buys another EV, they're going to have to charge at the Tesla superchargers, right? Other services opportunity, that's where you make a lot of money. Energy business expansion, services on all that energy business. Because let's say, Tesla's building this, building that, went to energy business. Over time, things break, things fail, out in the weather, right, out in the elements, and Tesla makes services money off of all that, right? Model 3 and Model Y are still young. Let's keep that in mind. Most vehicles mature in terms of sales numbers around when they've been out about 10 years or so. The Model 3 and Model Y are still very young vehicles overall, right? And then there's a robotics opportunity that's massive for Tesla long term as well. Now, the company looks rich, right? 57 forward P roughly, right? So let's call it 2 to 3 times where the market trades at. But I think they're going to be able to eat up that forward P over the next 2 to 3 years. And the reason being is I think they're going to start going up on pricing in the back half of this year. We're already starting to see some signs that they're starting to wiggle pricing up in some markets. I think prices will really start going up back half of the year, right? So that's going to help out the company's margins in profitability in an immense way. Costs, we know Tesla just continues to bring down cost of making their vehicles over time, right? Cybertruck margins should be insane once they get that baby all up and ramped. The first half of the year, margins will be rough there, but once they have it ramped, margins should be incredible. For trucks, usually the margins are the highest, right? And then the services opportunity, that's straight profit. And so that 57 forward PU, I think, will get eaten into very, very fast, and that EPS is going to skyrocket over the next few years. We're likely bottoming out margins and profitability likely in the next 3 to 6 months, and we're going to head up from there, essentially, okay? So, speaking about crying your eyes out, Tesla shares fall after deliveries drop 8.5% from a year ago. Okay, we all know the numbers by this point in time. If you don't know the numbers, where the heck have you been all day? They missed big time when it came to deliveries. They missed by a mile. They missed analyst expectations by a mile, right? Once again, analysts are wrong. Who would have thought it? But they even missed a lot of, in my opinion, Tesla experts. They even missed true Tesla experts numbers in terms of deliveries as well, which was pretty shocking. Okay, now sometimes you just got to go in the airplane, 35,000 feet, and just take a little bigger view, okay? Let's take a little bigger view. Tesla, in this horrible, I've heard this quarter discussed as horrible, awful, disaster, oh my gosh, the worst thing ever, okay? That's all I heard on TV all day today. And that's all I heard from people in terms of discussing this quarter. Oh, it was the worst. How could Tesla put up such a bad quarter? Keep in mind, they just delivered more vehicles in one quarter than they did an entire year of 2019, okay? So yes, the numbers were very disappointing, but sometimes you just got to zoom out a little bit. That's pretty darn incredible when you think about it in that context, right? Pretty darn amazing. Now, here's the problem, okay? Big problem. We have a revenue problem, okay? Clearly, obviously, if deliveries are coming in at that sort of number. So this means I would say Tesla's probably going to be somewhere in the negative 5% to positive 5% revenue range for 2024. And a lot of that depends on how the economy does in the back half of the year, right? And also if they continue to ramp Cybertruck as successfully as they're ramping it right now, to really start putting up some big Cybertruck numbers in the back half of the year. So it's a bad revenue. Like for Tesla, this is horrible. This is disaster, right? It is. I mean, just to put it quite frankly, for Tesla, right? Tesla's a company that, people usually expect to grow 30 to 50% a year, right? And when we're talking about negative 5% to plus 5%, which is realistic where they're probably going to be by the end of this year, that's, bad for Tesla overall. So that's going on. It is what it is. This is what 2024 is. The other problem is probably not hitting 294 in terms of EPS. Probably going to look more like 250 by the end of the year, which if you take $166 stock price divided out by 250, you're basically paying 66 times 2024 numbers. Now, that may be fine if Tesla's growing at revenues of 30% plus, right? Because you can say, okay. But when the company is at negative 5% to positive 5% revenue looking like for this year, right? An EPS that is obviously not going to be in a great place for this year. It looks really bad when it comes to from that perspective, right? It looks very expensive. When you compare it to its peers, right, which some people feel like Tesla's peers are Ford, GM, no. Okay, that is not Tesla's peers. Okay, if you want to compare it to that, you can compare it to that. I don't compare it to them. I compare them. They're a tech company. That's why people buy Teslas, because it's tech related, right? They don't buy it because of an internal combustion engine competing against Ford and GM. So I put them, and obviously then the million other businesses Tesla has past the auto business, right? I put them in the category of tech, so I'm comparing against Meta and other companies, right? Meta, you're getting 34% EPS growth in 2024 expected, trading at a 24 forward P, right? So we can call it about a third of, or a little over a third of what Tesla's trading at, but with way better EPS growth. Amazon, and by the way, Meta's my biggest position in the public count. Amazon's another big position, not as big as Tesla for me. It's Tesla's twin. I always said the best comp for Tesla is Amazon. And Amazon is expected to have 45%, don't be surprised if that number's low, 45% EPS growth here this year. And that trades at about a 42 forward PE, right? So way under Tesla. What about the stock that gets all the attention? What about NVIDIA? What about NVIDIA? Let's see. NVIDIA, you're getting expected 91% EPS growth in this year, trading at a 36 forward PE. So the moral of the story is, if you're judging just off of 2024 numbers, it makes 0% sense to buy Tesla if you're only judging off 2024 and what's expected to happen this year, okay? NVIDIA, Meta, Amazon, all those stocks look like way better buys if you only have the frame of mind of just looking at 2024. Okay, I can't debate that. Like if somebody wanted to debate me on 2024, like you can't debate that. Okay, Tesla's long term might be a very different story, and we're about to get into that. But in terms of just looking at 2024, the expectations, you can't make an argument for Tesla over an Amazon, over a Meta, over an NVIDIA on a valuation basis. It just doesn't make logical sense, okay? I mean, I just laid it out for you there. But we got to put some things into context here, okay? I have an EV stocks watch list on my stock tracker, right? It includes Workhorse, which I'm surprised they're still around. They're down to 21 cents. Nikola, which I'm surprised they're still around, right? They're under $1 a share. You have Rivian, which is all the way down $10. You have obviously Tesla. Then you have Lucid, which is down to $2. And then you have NIO, which is down to $4, right? How are these stocks faring? Well, Workhorse is down 83% in the past year. Nikola is the winner chicken dinner of the bunch. I don't know if you can call under $1 stock a winner, but that one's only down 20% in the past year. Rivian down 31% in the past year. Lucid is now a $2 chuck stock, down 65% in the past 1 year. And then you have NIO, which is down 56% in the past 1 year. Moral of the story is things are bad when it comes to all the EV stocks, right? And Tesla's holding their own despite everything that's been really working against the entire EV sector. Now, with that being said, a record 1.2 million EVs were sold in the United States in 2023, according to estimates by KBB. Now, this is fascinating because EVs are now up to a 7.6% market share of U.S. vehicles sold last year. That's up from 5.9% in 2022. And that number continues to increase and should continue to increase massively over the coming years. Now, when you think about this, right, Tesla's the number one player in the EV market, right? Now, that total market right now is under 10% share. And you have to ask yourself, okay, one, is there any competitive threat that could potentially knock off Tesla out of that number one leadership position? Okay, let's just think about that logically for just a moment. Is Ford going to knock off Tesla? Is Volkswagen going to knock off Tesla? Is BMW going to knock off Tesla? Mercedes, GM, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai? No. Okay, so there's really no credible competitive threat to Tesla that we see over the coming years, right? Which means Tesla's going to hold the number one dominant market share, right? In a market that, once again, my belief is over this next decade, we're going to near 100% EVs over this next decade, right? And right now it's under 10%. So just a quick math exercise, and you're going to find that, oh boy, Tesla's next 10 years are looking really freaking great. 2024, not looking great. The next 10 years, looking absolutely phenomenal. Unless EVs do not take off over the next 10 years and, the market share never gains again or something like that, right? Or if Tesla loses number one position. Neither one of those look very realistic to me. It looks like EVs will just continue to take market share, especially as Supercharger network continues to be built out more and more. EVs will continue to gobble up more and more market share. And especially, you got to understand when the numbers really start pouring in and we get to 15% market share, 25%, 35%, you got to understand those numbers are bigger than the total market right now. So Tesla could all of a sudden produce an extra 500,000 vehicles, million vehicles in a year at that particular time, right? So that's the other fascinating thing there. So when you look at it from that context, Tesla's looking really freaking good, okay? Now, in the very short term, Cybertruck's going to be a huge help, right? Not the first half of the year. This is rampant. They're ramping the Cybertruck, right? But second half of the year, they're going to be producing a lot of Cybertrucks, and they can sell every freaking Cybertruck they produce for years to go in the future, right? And so Cybertruck will be a huge help in the short term, back half of 24 and then into 25, and I think the margins are going to be extraordinary on Cybertruck, right? Now, in the short term, people are looking at the used vehicle market as of negative for Tesla. And I'll be honest, you can make an argument of that this is a negative for Tesla in the short term because somebody might look out there and they say, okay, I can get a brand new Model 3 for whatever dollar amount, but I could get a used one here for Carvana for $27,000 with only 19,000 miles. I'll just get that, right? And maybe Tesla loses sale. So I can understand why that would be looked at as a negative in the short term, but this is the best thing for Tesla over the long term, right? This is where you got to differentiate short term versus long term. This is huge for awareness, right? The fact that Tesla, you can go buy a Tesla for $20-something thousand, right, is huge because there's a lot of people that can't afford $35,000, $45,000, $55,000 for a vehicle, but they can't afford 20-something, right? And so this is massive for Tesla's awareness to get more people in these EVs that never even considered an EV or a Tesla in general, right, that are now able to get these and now able to drive these around. And then guess what everybody does when they get a Tesla? They show all their friends and their family members. Oh, look at it, they can do this. And guess what? Everybody's inquisitive, especially if they haven't been educated about Tesla. Wait, how's this work? Wait, how long does it take to charge? Oh, what's this screen do? How fast does it go? All these sorts of things, right? You get all those questions. So you just get a massive educated population that just wasn't educated on these vehicles before, right? And the other massive thing when it comes to this is services. Services. The older the vehicles are, the fleet is, things will eventually go wrong. Things will eventually have to get fixed and problems will happen. More and more vehicles on the Supercharger network, more and more revenue opportunities for Tesla over the long term. And somebody buys a Model 3 for $25,000, right? And hopefully over the next 5 years, they're doing better in their financial life. And maybe they go buy a Cybertruck 5 years from now, or a Model X, or whatever, right? This is a long-term game. This is chess. This isn't just some short-term, if you didn't hit the numbers this quarter, you're done as a company. It's not the way it works. It's the way Wall Street sometimes makes it seem, and the media makes it seem. You didn't hit your numbers this quarter, you're out. Like, running a business, you understand the TAM, the total addressable market. You understand long-term customer value, right? These are all extremely important things as like business 101 of running a business, right? So now Tesla was a first stock I spoke about in the video came out with 3 days ago, 7 stocks I'm buying, April 2024 edition. If you want to hear me talk much more in depth about Tesla, watch that video there. Moral of the story is I'm a buyer of Tesla. I hope it goes lower. And clearly there's still plenty of buying activity in Tesla because you saw that stock drop this morning and it got bought up. Like today could have been easily a down 7 to 10% day, but buyers are ready to snap those shares up left and right, okay?